Inwards, outwards. Inwards, outwards.
I'm Eileen Marcus, and I'm so pleased to host tonight because I never met an April Fool's joke I do not like, and I believe it should go on all month long. So it's really a pleasure to be here. As always, we want to thank, well, let me start with announcements, just to get them out of the way so we all hear them. Joan Embry, if anyone lives near her and knows where she lives, just see Denise because she could probably use a ride here. So I think that would be helpful. Is that right, Denise? Yeah. As always,
where does she live?
That's the question.
Oh, we don't know. I think she's in the Satanic. I might be wrong.
All right, we will discover where Joan Embry lives, and we will get her here. That is our mission. So, to be discussed. Joan. Okay. First of all, Andres couldn't be with us tonight. I am so glad that man took a night off because he is always here. And I'm so glad we still have this Happy New Year with the Soul Support book and all the Deb stuff surrounding us. So glad that that's still there. And of course, Julie, our consummate tech person, host, shower-upper, greeter. Woo! Anyone who wants to host, you don't have to be brave. You just have to like to talk. Go see Denise, and we'd love to have you. So, I am wearing a light on my head. Who just said that? Audience participation. I'm Eileen Marcus. The theme tonight is bright lights. Oh God, I can't get it. Bright lights. I have a spot on all of you. Now, in my mind, when I was preparing, I was like, oh, you don't like it? I'll just turn around. And I have another one for the back of my head because I am a teacher's daughter. And she had eyes in the back of her head. So just to give you an example, wait, I have this. Am I strobing yet? Yes! Okay, I will not wear it, but if anyone would like a spotlight, you can have a personal one. So when I think about bright lights, I think a lot about the city. I grew up in suburbia, and that's when suburbia was like the thing to be, right? The early 1970s, people were moving out of the cities, trying to get a better life. Suburbia was never the life for me, never the life. The malls, the sumps, the traffic. I grew up in Long Island. We had something called the Lie, the Long Island Expressway. They don't call it the Lie anymore. They call it the 135, but it was the Lie. And then we also had the SOB, the Seaford Oyster Bay. Actually, that's the 135. The LAE is the 495. And I think that about sums up my growing up experience, the Lie and the SOB. That's how you traveled, and that's how you got places. And the only place I ever really wanted to travel was into the city. And that would be the city with the bright lights, big city, New York City. Hang in the Village, go to Madison Square Garden, go to the cool shops, go up to Columbia, meet the college boys, whatever it was. I'll be around NYU, the theater. I wanted to be in the city. And where I grew up, in this town in Long Island called Farmingdale, there was a bus. Like if you were in the advanced social studies, you got to go into the city to see a show. So what did they do? Those were those busload of kids that went to like Mama Leone's. Remember Mama Leone's? And he went up 42nd Street or one of these like the old, now it would be the Olive Garden. They'd get on the bus in front of the high school. They'd be dropped off at the Olive Garden. They'd walk half a block to see Mamma Mia, and they'd get back into the bus. And they went into the city. That was not the city for me. It was getting out of the train station, getting up, getting a crusty pretzel from the smelly hot dog guy, walking down the street among all the people with the briefcases weaving through, trying to cross a light, buying street food and street clothes and finding undiscovered stores and, of course, underage bars. And I just love bright lights in big city. And I lived there for 36 years. And I've been up where I am now for almost, I went to camp up here, so I've been in this community almost for 42 years. And I never really realized the difference between the bright lights in the big city and the bright sky and the big stars. And I live in Monterey, where I will have snow till Mother's Day, snow and flowers. I have no internet when there are trees, have leaves, or it's raining. But at the same time, that sky and that moon, right now we're in a solstice, that moon, I sometimes think I left my outside lights on because it is so bright, the way that moon shines down through the clouds, that, through the trees and the clouds, it is beautiful. So I've always searched for those bright lights. But as I get older and wiser and I learn what's important, I realize the brightest light of all is the one that has to shine in here and from me to all of you, for what I can give and for the hope I can give out. So it's really an honor to be with all of you tonight, to hear you and your bright light stories. Thank you. So we don't have the steward, right? We don't have our steel bowls. Okay, I can play the... Okay, so we are going to have... And we don't have Ronnie Cunningham. No. So we will have Christina first. Woo! And Christina, your last name? Oh, I can never say it right. Colditz, right? Coles. And Christina will be followed by Yolanta. Right?
Kids in school everywhere, I taught in middle school, they used to say cold ass. But they wouldn't let me hear it, and I caught them one once, and it wasn't a pretty story. So, no instruments today, no bowls. I wrote a story. It's longer than 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you that right now. I cut it down 10 times.
Use the mic.
Okay. I shall. I should just move the mic, right? Is that better? Whoop. Is that better?
Mine are at your feet, so don't mind.
Say again?
You're good.
Okay. So, it's a personal story, and some of you may remember some of it. I don't know. You've been in the Berkshires long enough. And I'm going to read it. I wanted to tell it, too nervous. And this is the first. I looked up how to craft a story. That's where I started. Okay, here we go. It was a perfect 4th of July weekend back in 1999. The Berkshires were hopping, and everyone was enjoying all the Berkshires had to offer. This area is a destination for so many things: shopping, theater, and things like that. But it's also a destination for restaurants. It's a great place for foodies, too. So many restaurants, even now. But even back then, there were all kinds of restaurants. You want a steak? We have it. How about some Italian, Chinese, Japanese? But there was one little cafe that stood out among the rest. It was a tiny place, white with pink trim. It was surrounded by lots of flowers, hanging baskets everywhere. It was called Sweet Pea and Petunias. It was mine. It was my little cafe. It was located on Route 7, next to what is now the Aegean Breeze. Back then it was called Jody's. You couldn't miss it. It was a popular spot, hanging baskets groaning with petunias, a picnic table, even the trash can had flowers, big flowers painted on it. And if you knew me or know me, flowers are very important. Everything said, come on in, welcome. The little front porch had an ice cream window. We sold soft serve, and the lines were always long in those hot summer days. The flowers called you in. The inside was small, about the size of this room. 6 tables with those little ice cream parlor chairs, just enough room for about 20 customers, a great staff, and a very small kitchen. It was small. This is the entire restaurant right here. Actually, this is bigger than the restaurant. The kitchen is here, and the little chairs are out there. It wasn't just an ice cream shop. It had great lunches, even better desserts. The menu was funky, eclectic, wrapped sandwiches with great names and ingredients. Buddha belly, Cheech and Chong, Miss Autumn, a T-Rex, Times Square with pickles, coleslaw, and pastrami, all rolled up in a wrap sandwich. Great Barrington hadn't seen anything like that by then. We even had borscht. I'm Ukrainian, so who doesn't make borscht? Hot or cold, vegetarian chili, great quiches. And the desserts, they were from my bakery. Christina's Just Desserts. It was just right around the corner in Housatonic. Pie, soccer torts, truffles, strawberry tuxedos. Have you ever seen a strawberry tuxedo? Take a big, fat strawberry, dip the front of it in white chocolate, and then you very carefully get dark chocolate and make a little angle. So the white is like this, and then there's a V. And then you take another little pastry bag. You make a tiny bow and 3 little dots. People love them. People love those. They never seen them before. I had fun making those. It was a busy Saturday, as every weekend is in the summer, and the cafe was bustling. You could hear from the kitchen, 2 Miss Autumns, Cheech and Chong, 1 borscht. The place was humming, and you could hear customers asking Trivial Pursuit questions. Yep, that's how we kept them busy while they waited for their orders. It was late in the afternoon. It was Saturday. My mom and I were getting ready to leave. She had to go to Housatonic to the Polish church for the 5 o'clock Mass. And she was there helping me all the time in this little cafe. We gathered our things, and I said to Mom, I got to get a case of avocados over at Price Chopper, and off we went. I parked the van, got the avocados, headed out the door, and a few checkers were running outside. And some customers were shouting and yelling, pointing across the street where my cafe was. I turned around and looked at a horrific sight. A flatbed truck had plowed through my cafe right up the front porch, through the ice cream window, and through the front wall. I can't tell you. There are no words to tell you how I felt. I just had so many words to ask questions. How was my staff, my customers, the building, the equipment? What had happened? We raced over and we looked at the place. The foundation was cracked, just absolutely cracked. Smoke was coming from that tractor trailer, and there was a pole from the little front porch. It just flew through the air, right through the front window, the windshield, and missed the driver by inches. It was like a javelin. Mm-hmm. It was horrible. The equipment, the building and the equipment, that was another story. Chilean pies, strawberries, and glass were all mushed together. The equipment toppled and ruined the 2-door fridge where my mother and I were standing just a few minutes later. Check the avocados. Fell flat. If we had stood in front of it, we would have been crushed or hurt. One of the girls thought somebody had a gun and shot it. The way she heard it, she jumped over the counter. The customers ran out the door. No one was hurt, just emotionally. It was quite a time. Civil defense came. They were directing traffic through the mess. The police and the EMTs were all there as well. Cars were backed up and the detours put in place. The building, it was condemned. The machinery was destroyed. But like a tree in a storm, we bend, we don't break, we build. And that's what we did. We built. And build we did. It took a year of anxiety, fear, and disappointments, but we could see the light at the end of that dark tunnel. It took sweat, tears, and some blood. But Sweet Peas had a brand new home, and it was funky and happy. There was color everywhere. 10-foot kites, ceilings like this, big, from Asia Barong, dragon kites, butterfly kites, you name them. Graffiti on the walls, lava lamps, a magnetic word board, and some people put dirty words on it. You just have to check it, There was fountains setting the stage for fun and food. The bathroom was a destination spot. Why? It was painted with huge waves, a beautiful tree, and a poem about our famous Green River. And a special treat for the guys, an infinity mirror. You know what an infinity mirror is? It's one of those that you look into and you see. I placed it right above the toilet. It was a special place. It really was. I hadn't lost my sense of humor. It all had come back. The menu changed. We included bubble tea. We were the first ones to have fat straws and tapioca pearls that looked like fish eyes. I didn't like it. We had a juice bar, a juicer this big, and wheatgrass and cucumber juice and carrot juice. And we did breakfast, huevos rancheros, French toast made from challah bread with great big pools of maple syrup and lots of fresh fruit. And the Russian princess, which was a favorite, was poached steaks, toasted English muffins, a sour cream sauce, and we made a rose from a salmon. A little salmon rose, Punk, the Russian princess. People love those. That was sold for about $4.95 back then. That's why we were still not open. Anyway. Most of my staff is from Oaxaca, and they were my dear, dear friends. And we started to cook Mexican for ourselves. They taught me. I learned from them. And 3 nights a week, all of a sudden, Sweet Pea and Petunias became La Cocina de Oaxaca. 3 nights a week. It was wonderful. We had mole. Chapalinas. Does anyone know what chapalinas are? Grasshoppers, fried grasshoppers. What an appetizer. You have to take the back legs off. I used to tell the customers if they're really big, because it'll scratch your throat. Elote tierno, the corn on a stick, you name it, we had it. And 3 nights a week, Sweet Peas turned into a Mexican cafe, Ole, and it's almost over, but not. My kids worked in the bakery cafe. My son Adam fell in love with the cafe. My daughter Autumn fell in love with Thomas, the pastry guy. Since he was 12, Adam was always at my side helping and fueling his passions. He attended Johnson & Wales, and they sent him to London, France, and Wales to learn his trade. When he came home, he worked at several area restaurants. Wheatley was his favorite. He was there for a couple of years. It was then he knew he didn't want to work for anyone anymore. So in 2006, he took over Sweet Peas, made it his own, and Cafe Adam, best restaurant, was born. That's another story. These are menus from the Mexican restaurant, the breakfast place. There's photos of the truck, so you can look at it later with the javelin through it, the destroyed building, but the whole 9 yards to get a smattering of my life.
That was very wow, because that was Christina's first story that she ever wrote. Can you that was your first story you ever wrote, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that's the first story? We were here at the debut. But not only that, I'm really struck by, first of all, I need a Russian doll. You can see that little rosette of smoked salmon. But the intergenerational nature of what you started and what you brought to the Berkshires, and just the fact that the Berkshires really is built on entrepreneurs. It's never been any different. So thank you for providing us with delicious food and a son that wants to continue that tradition, and with entertaining us, because we need another accordion. No, I'm going with you. What are you doing tomorrow? No. Anyway, that was Christina. So first time telling a story, amazing. And she said to me, "You're not going to want it to end," and she was right. Now we have Yolanta, who will be followed by Kitty. So I have Yolanta Lorac. Loranek? How do we say that? Lorenz. I was way off.
So close. Mine is not food related, but it's something hopefully that conjures sun and bright lights. And it's 2 short little ditties, under 5 minutes, and they're connected, and you'll hear the connection probably at the end, and probably half of you or more will recognize the tune. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. When she walks, it's like a samba that swings so cool and sways so gently, that when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. Oh, but he watches so sadly. How can he tell her he loves her? Yes, he would give his heart gladly, but each day when he walks to the sea, She looks straight ahead, not at him. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes he smiles, but she doesn't see. No, she just doesn't see. She doesn't see. This second one is less well known, but it's so good. And on YouTube, a long time ago, there was a black and white recording of Jobim and Stan Getz. But somebody took it down, so it's no longer visible. But man, those guys, if it ever pops up again and you're YouTubing, take a look. This one is, this is just a little samba built upon a single note. Other notes are bound to follow, but the root is still that note. Now this new one is the consequence of the one we've just been through, as I'm bound to be the unavoidable consequence of you. There's so many people who can talk and talk and talk and just say nothing or nearly nothing. I have used up all the scale I know, and at the end I come to nothing or nearly nothing. So I turn back to my first note, as I must turn back to you. I will pour into that one note all the love I feel for you. Anyone who wants the whole show, re mi fa sol la ti do, he will find himself with no show. Better play the note you know.
That was bright. That was really beautiful. Each word so perfectly enunciated. Amazing. I'm worried now I'm one of those people that talks without saying anything all the time, so now I have a new fear. With that, we have Kitty Kiefer up next, followed by Kristen. So Kitty Kiefer! Woo!
How many of you have ever heard of exfractic? Exfractic. It's a Greek word, exfractic, okay. It's writing in depth about a piece of art. All right, and so this, as many of you know, I take photographs and then I mess with them. So this is a scan of a piece of art.
Can you talk to the mic?
Yeah, I will.
I'm going to move it back just a touch so it doesn't fall off.
So can you see this? This is Frida. All right, can you hear me now? All right. There are two Frida Kahlos, the one we love and the one we don't. This is a self-portrait with cropped hair. I am so angry I cannot speak. Well, I can barely speak. And if I do speak, I will spit at you in anger and in fury. Yes, fidelity is a bourgeois value, but lying sucks, and you have lied to me again, and I am angry. This angry is cumulative. It is death by 500 arrows, small arrows, but 500 wounds, until I, in rage, threw you out, away, by the edge of the road. I kicked you to the curb of the street. Mexico is very hot. I kept my long, dark, thick hair because of Eve in the Garden of Eden. Because I was naked with you in passion and in love, you would use my hair as a garment for me, ever-changing, always soft, often too hot. Your hands rearranging my hair on my breasts, my belly, my legs. My hair, grown since birth, was so thick, long, sweepingly beautiful, a coat of one color and little form. You sang to me, murmured softly as you draped and moved and kissed me. I've had it. I'm done. I am angry, very angry. This portrait, this self-portrait, I am out of the garden. I ate the fruit. I see you as you are. And now the hair, the lost hair. The hair will never be what it was. It will never be long again. It did not hurt as I cut it. I did not cut myself. I did not bleed. I did not cry. My mouth and teeth were closed. I stood naked in front of the mirror of our dressing room. I cut the hair in chunks into a basket at my feet, all of the hair, cutting carefully around my ears and the back of my neck. I combed it forward and cut around the shape of my skin, mirroring closely the boundary between black and white. I dressed in an old suit of yours with a dark red shirt, then staggered to the yellow chair with the basket of my shorn fleece. I took the hair from the basket in chunks and threw and draped, so it is all visible here. It is all accounted for. I put on my earrings, heavy gold. I put my scissors in my hand. I sat by the canvas and the paints, mouth still closed, the corners of my mouth turned down. I will never touch my eyebrows with scissors or razor. They will always remind me of the wildness and freedom of the garden wherein I was Eve. I will never be Eve again. Now I have a last name. I am Frida Kahlo, because I will never be anyone else. I do not hate you. You disgust me. I'm done with you. My next round of beauty will be shocking and breathtaking. You will be very sad and miss me without ceasing, endlessly. That is what you will think, until you remember that I am the person you desire above all women. And I am also your most bitter disappointment, the disappointment of tasting a persimmon not yet ripe. And oh, you do know better. You knew that we were not to eat of that fruit. You knew. And now you know why. So write the story, but do not share it with me. I have my own parable to tell. All who see it will not forget. I am so beautiful, and so were you, until the stench of you made me ill, and I ordered you away. You are gone. I am changed, both forever. I am exhausted. The new beauty will be a resurrection, a phoenix, a glory in the whirlwind. I will not fly too close to the sun unless I choose to. The beauty of what is coming will be blinding, but now I will sleep. I won't clean the palette or the brushes. I will turn away, put down the scissors, and drop the coat. Then I will sleep. If I dream, I will remember. If I do not dream, I will know that I did not dream. It was, after all, the tree of knowledge from which I ate. The tree of knowledge. I can say thank you for that. Immortality would be unbearable in any form.
If I missed last month, and I was so sad to miss it, and what I would have said or shared is that in March, it would have been my 10-year IWOW anniversary. So, yeah, and so 10 years ago, I had a friend, I was like 8 or 9 months in the Berkshires by then, and I had a friend who's not even a regular. She's read here a few times, but it was like the coinciding with the Berkshire Women's Writers. They like took over IWOW that year, that month, and she said, "Oh, there's a women's writing thing, come." And so she shared, and I sat like right there, and I was like, "Where am I?" And that was that. And I think I performed the next month and here I am. So I wanted to share that, and I have a little fiction vignette to share with you, and then one more bit of something to share. This is called The Librarian. The librarian sighed as she pushed her stockings down around her ankles and over her petite toes. She folded her beige stockings neatly and placed the little wrinkled square beside her on the bench on top of her wool skirt. The dressing room was small but suitable for her purposes. She always chose the smaller one, even if there was a more spacious option available, lest someone see her, a single woman, entered into a space reserved for families or differently abled people, and think poorly of her. 2 of the 3 hooks were missing. The lone hook dutifully held several hangers of items that the librarian had deemed potentially wearable. She reached for, unclipped, and slid on a pair of brown linen pants. She had left on her white button-down blouse dotted with beige polka dots so that she could get a complete picture of the outfit. As she turned to view the pants from all angles, she imagined herself at her usual tasks. Here, reaching to return a novel to its right place, now squatting to scan a low shelf for a particular poetry anthology, and of course, rolling slightly forward in her comfortable gray chair toward a patron with a stack of books so that she may perform the ubiquitous duty of checkout. She sighed again, nodding a "these will do" toward herself in the mirror. The linen factor was not an issue, as she was in the habit of regularly ironing the more delicate items in her closet. She had known they would fit into her demure wardrobe the moment she spotted them on the rack, for this was one of her gifts, ordering, arranging, organizing, not only tomes and paperbacks, but colors, shapes, and ideas. After a similar inquiry into a navy blue skirt and subsequently adding it to her yes pile, the librarian paused, hesitant to regard the last item. Before her was a wildly patterned cotton dress that had caught her eye. Its shape was neat, with a simple collar and buttons down the front, something, if it were simply maroon or taupe, that she might wear. But this fabric was awash in splashes of color, brown squiggles juxtaposed with orange triangles, dashes of mustard yellow here and there. To look at it both enchanted and terrified her. Could she ever? Would she? Forget it. No sense in making the effort if she knew the outcome. Besides, she didn't feel like unbuttoning her blouse. The librarian turned from her reflection and abandoned the notion of the wild dress to retrieve her neatly folded pants. At that moment, her eye fell upon a spot of bright green on the floor beneath the built-in bench. An errant sock? A misplaced hanger? Whatever it was, it certainly wouldn't be hers, such a garish color. A step closer and crouched down revealed to her a long snout and pointy white teeth. A plastic toy alligator. She considered it for a moment before picking it up, gently for some reason, as if the thing were sentient. She sat, holding the reptile interloper up to her face. She suddenly felt a momentary shyness, realizing the creature had been witness to her undressing from its covert location beneath the bench. She gave it a disapproving frown and a finger wag, upon which a giggle escaped from her. This was a surprise. There was something about this creature and its absurd presence that tickled her. She, that preferred order and brown linen slacks and sense-making. After sliding her own familiar pants back on, she picked up the toy again and allowed the alligator to walk a bit along the edge of the mirror, stopping to turn this way and that, admiring its bumpy, toothy self. Just then the librarian caught a glimpse of her own face, hair pulled back in a neat chestnut braid, bobby pins barely visible, quiet brown eyes, obligatorily modest spectacles. Then, keeping her own gaze, she tried on a slow smirk, curving her thin lips upward and to the left. The movement was incredibly unfamiliar, and yet something stirred. When was the last time she had allowed herself to play? Again, she held the alligator up to her own face in tender regard. The librarian gave the beast a kiss on the snout and gently tucked it into her tan purse. With a slowly unfurling smile and a decisive sweep, she scooped up her chosen items along with the orange, yellow, and brown cotton dress. She pushed out of the dressing room door toward the registers, envisioning the exact spot on her desk that the alligator would inhabit. The dress would fit. Of that, she was certain. Thank you. So it's great because I love when this happens. So the theme of play. So I work for Berkshire Art Center, formerly IS 183, which maybe we'll be saying for the next decade for all the locals. And it's an amazing organization. I've been working for them for almost a decade. And I'm an educator. I teach art after school. I work with children all over the county. And I recently took on a new position as a curriculum writer for the art school, and what that means for our Learning Through the Arts program. And what that means is I get to write curriculum that's taught up and down Berkshire County by amazing art teachers to children all over. And we get to choose the themes, and the idea is it's called Art-Centric, and we get to highlight local artists. So This spring curriculum that I worked on just the past 2 months ago, that I'm literally starting this week, that many other teachers are, I chose 4 artists, all of whom I knew. And I can tell you it's Adam Goodian, which some of you might know as a wonderful picture book illustrator, Donna Mickelson, who I met here, who is that amazing ambidextrous artist, Laura Diddick, who's a friend and writer and artist of many of ours, and of course, and immediately first, was Deb. And I am so excited to have written these lessons and be sharing them with teachers and students, and because of that, I make samples to show the teachers. Now, the student work will be like amazing and so much better, but I just wanted to show you because we're gonna have kids making things like this. So here's mine. Here's mine, and of course, just thank you to Deb. So that's one. So we're gonna make inspired spinners, and they get to pick obviously the colors and whatever words are on them. And this other one, there's a math one too, and I didn't make a sample. The theme is play, and so it's like exploring materials and process. So here is my sample for the teacher, some parts of me. And I literally was just standing here a few weeks ago checking them out, going, so I just was really excited to share that with y'all. And as the artwork comes in, I'm going to share it with Andreas and with Sarah and the family too. So,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. Those bright lights of those spinners. I'm going to go home and make a spinner. I think that's a great idea, and spreading the word and the works of Deb. Okay, Jeannie is on deck, and Sonia, I always get her last name wrong, Sonia Fleischer. Hilton, every time. At least I'm consistent in a bad way. No. I hear Sonia. Woo!
Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay. I've been part of a really interesting process of 8 local writers in the Berkshires writing a novel together. And the original genre comes from the French surrealists, and it was called Exquisite Corpse. And one person comes up with the first chapter, then the second person has to continue, and then the third. I was the 8th, so I had to conclude it. The 7th one is sitting back there, Daniel Klein. And some of this might not make that much sense, but I'll read it to you anyway. Chapter 8. Oh, and it's called Artificial Insanity. And what it's about is a woman who donated her eggs 20 years earlier for infertile couples or whatever in order to make some money. And 20 years later, 3 children who are the issue of her eggs, who have found her out through 32andMe, contact her. The parents never told her, told the children. And the chapter that Daniel gave me, chapter 7, he brought it back to the lab. And there was a bungling lab assistant. Okay. There had been the accidental defrosting of Marion's 12 remaining in vitro embryos. A mere distraction, and only 11 had been defrosted. As Professor Yudkin paced around the lab, sputtering, "Schlemiel, a fool, an unconscious blob of human waste they give me as a lab assistant," Ralph Regerson had slipped the viable in vitro embryo into a glass culture dish he had prepared for this purpose. He quickly slid it back into the back of the lab cryonics freezer. Yudkin continued, in Russian it seemed, but since Ralph wore high-pitched sound detector headphones, he just watched his lips move. So far his plan had gone off without a hitch. Ralph was incel, an incel, an involuntary celibate. Women despised him, even his own mother. He scored 0 in his ability to attract any female, even if she wasn't much to write home about. They looked down at him with haughty contempt. Was it his asthma that forced him to breathe loudly, unpleasantly? That was his mother suffocating him, even though he hadn't seen her for years. He knew he wasn't much to look at, just average, but lots of guys with hair growing out of their ears, who were short, fat, who stuttered, who could barely walk without tripping over their own feet, had women. Had women, but they had something more important, do, re, mi, and that made all the difference. Finally, Ralph had given up. That's when he'd found others like him, brothers. They too longed to love and be loved, but it wasn't going to happen in this lifetime. That love had turned into rage and despair. Marion's 12 in vitro embryos had sparkled like rubies in the cryonics freezer. They had been staring at him for months, calling out to him. Why not? The way some people wanted a dog, he wanted a child. Someone to love, to take care of, to be his for the rest of his life. But who could carry the embryo? He needed a woman to be implanted. Of course, he thought of Meg, his older sister in Scottsdale, Arizona. She was living there with her girlfriend Alice. Was there a chance? That evening he called her. What do I owe this honor, she asked, rather snidely. It was true, he hadn't called for months. I just wanted to say hello to you. How are things in the lab? Funny you should ask, he began cautiously. Yes? We've been doing experiments with in vitro embryos. His voice trailed off. Okay. I have a weird but serious proposition to make to you. Okay, she repeated. Have you ever thought about giving birth to a child? Why are you asking me this? Ralph paused. I want to have a child, but it isn't going to happen since I can't even get a date. And I can't imagine it'll happen for you and Alice. But I have a fertilized in vitro embryo. You're crazy. The egg donor is a musician who graduated from Yale. There are already 3 other children, he said. It could be the family baby. The family baby? Talk to Alice. I'll call back in a few hours. This is the donor. Marion drove up to Mamaroneck with Carson next to her. If she was going to meet their family, she wanted to introduce hers. How are you doing? She asked Carson. He didn't answer. He was too busy with his cups. His new obsession was stacking colored plastic cups. He stacked 10 until they fell over. She held Carson's arm tightly as they entered the quiet bistro, famous for its onion soup. Marion recognized Elizabeth immediately, though they hadn't met before. She was attractive, with a sharp, intelligent face. The children's father, Tom, had a serious expression. Kit, Henry, and Charles. The children. She joined their table. After everyone introduced themselves, Marion said, This is my son Carson. He's 12. They sat down. The waiter poured water into their glasses. She wanted to order a martini, but thought it better to wait. I must say this is a bit strange, Elizabeth said. Somehow I stopped thinking about the donor, that there was a donor once I gave birth. I suppose I was in denial. That's why I didn't tell anyone. Tom took her arm. I can understand that, Marion said sympathetically. She wore a casual sweater and was braless. Kit noticed and poked Kat, who followed her eyes. Both smiled with pleasure. Charlie seemed restless. Henry took it all in and then rose. Greetings and thank you all for coming. We are gathered here together. Henry, Kit scolded. Elizabeth looked uncomfortable. Carson shuffled in his seat. Marion took out a plastic bag with baby carrots from her bag and handed it to him. It's hard to say anything, Marion began. The choices we make, even if they were decades ago, never really leave us, even if we change our circumstances. She looked around at them, thinking of Tim, her husband, who had chosen to leave them both. This is a gift to me. Hopefully it'll be a gift to all of us. It means we have to open our hearts wider, Kit said. Kat nodded, putting her arm around Kit. If you looked at them from a distance, they resembled one big family, which they were. This was the nature of family now, created, adopted, intervened, joined by the desire to conceive, connected by the commodity of cash. Carson whispered something to Marion. He wants to know your name, she said. The children looked at each other. Henry began, followed by Charlie, Kit. Then Elizabeth, who had said very little, stood up. Hi, Carson, I'm Elizabeth. Charlie, Kit, and Henry's mom. It's nice to meet you. He looked down shyly. I like your cups. Can you show me what you do with them? Carson brightened as he began to stack the colorful plastic cups on the table, one after another until they teetered and fell over. That's when a rocking intro started. Before anyone knew, Sister Sledge was singing, We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. Thank you. What's that?
Hot off the
Oh, I'm
press.
sorry. And this was all published weekly in the Berkshire Edge.
So we could read the whole.
And they just finished last week. They ran this one, so you can connect and read it from the beginning.
And how would you say the experiment went from the two that contributed? How did it go? What do you think? Yeah. Well, you're the other writer, right?
I thought it went very well.
It was really fun.
It could have used altogether more narrative drive, I thought. But,
Well, you added narrative drive.
That is the story of my life. More narrative drive, if I tell you anything. But thank you. Very exciting to have it brought home. Thank you, Sonia. Okay, we have Jedediah. No Jedediah. So we have Jeannie Bassett. Thank you, Jeannie. Finally, I got one name right tonight. Jeannie Bassett, and we have Rosalind on deck. So Jeannie Bassett. Woo!
This is a children's song I wrote, and it's partly true. And it has a really singable, easy chorus with a tongue twister in it. There came to my kitchen window, my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, snout sniffing supper on the stove. Snout sniffing supper on the stove. You want to try the chorus? Here we go. Try that. Snout sniffing supper. On the stove. Snout sniffing supper on the stove. Come on, snout sniffing supper on the stove. There came to my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, snout sniffing supper on the stove. You got it. Would you like to come in and get your fill? Said Mr. Bear. Oh, yes, I will. He opened up the refrigerator, raspberries, and I'll have some later. There came to my kitchen window, my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, snout sniffing supper on the stove. Here's this great big easy chair, perfect for a great big bear. Told me stories about being a bear. We laughed 'cause he had no underwear. There came to my kitchen window, my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, snout sniffing supper on the stove. Walking through the garden, the bench said I love pears. I knew that blue would be friendly, a place to drop my cat. There came my kitchen window, my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, start spilling supper on the stove. Instead now I wouldn't mind very much if I used your lap. Fell asleep and soon did snore, slept till the snows no more. I was his pillow for all that time, read books, called friends, made up rhymes, and then he yawned the advice to you. Hugged me and said to me do. Hugged me and said to me do. There came to my kitchen window, my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, started skipping supper on the stove. One more time. There came to my kitchen window, my kitchen window, my kitchen window. There came to my kitchen window, started skipping supper on the stove. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Which part do you think was true? Which parts do you think was true?
Bear came to the kitchen window.
Bear really came to my kitchen window while I was cooking dinner, pushed its snout into the storm window on the outside, broke the glass. But also what was true, some friends of mine in Monterey had a bear come through their screen sliding doors, walk into their kitchen, go like this on their refrigerator, open up the freezer, pull out a loaf of bread and take a bite. And then leave. There is nothing like a Genie original. Thank you. Amazing. And a little IWOW fact. What word have we heard twice tonight that isn't usually used in IWOW? I don't know if I've ever heard it before. Jeannie just said the snout, and Kristen had the snout on the alligator. We had two snouts. It's amazing. A two-snout night. All right, that was corny. Okay, Ellen is on deck, and we have our own Rosalind Reese. Woo!
Okay. All right, and let's see. The song goes. We can be the projector or be the light. We can be the projector or be the light. We can be the projector or be the light. So here we are. We can be the projector or be the light. We can be the projector or be the light. We can be the projector or be the light. We can be the projector or be the light. We can be the projector or be the light. Okay, that was my little. So just reminding us all of the projections that we project throughout our day, and that we're all really this incredible light. Thank you.
Thank you. I knew that light was coming in handy. And what an honor to be on stage with Jenny and Rosalind. Now, that was a first for me, so I hope we have many more of those. Okay, we will have Steve on deck. He's going to finish us out tonight. And we have Ellen Russo coming up with some poems. Ellen. That good? You want me to move it?
Let's just put it back.
Yes.
Hello. It's been a long time. I think I haven't done this since well before COVID. And yes, this is great. So, thinking about April, I have a couple of my poems, and then I'm going to wind up with the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. Okay. Green fire. The news is never good, and yet, cool April rain falls on receptive earth. Politicians mouth integrity as wars flare. The magnolia has heard nothing of it all. Maple and oak are clearly in ecstasy. Forsythia has quite forgotten winter. I move dusty, broken chairs, old tables, feed them to hungry fire in light rain. A greening, singing world is astir. Smoke billows. Fire consumes that which is old, sap dried, use outlived. Praise to the fire. Praise to the flame that consumes, that cleanses. Praise to the green fire rising in living wood. And well, I'm in Monterey where there's still snow, here and there. So, temperature rising. Fat, hungry robins with wet feet forage widening emerald islands in spring snow, or narrow earthy strips at the house's south wall, where damp brown dirt births fleshy crocus tips. As shrinking snow grows gray veils, crows couple carry twigs, girls stroll, sweet, enticing, men laugh and strut, raucous with hungry eyes. And April heraldry. Slender, ghostly deer wearing winter gray graze on a brilliant green field. And have we any other English majors in the house? I hear that English majors are a shrinking breed. When I was there, we had to memorize the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, which begins with April. So that is how I am going to finish up here in honor of English majory and also the month of April. And who knows how these words were originally pronounced, but this is how we were taught to do it. When that April with his shores sought, the draught of March hath pierced to the rote, and bathed every vein in swift liquor, of which thereto engendered is the floor. When Zephyrus eke with his sweet breath, inspired hath in every holten heath the tender croppus, and the young sun hath in the ram his howl course run, and smalle fooles maken melodie, that slepen all the night with open eye, so pricketh them nature in her courages. Then longen folk to go on pilgrimages, and palmers for to sake in strange strondes, to ferne halwes, coth in sundry landes, and specially from every shearer's end of England to Canterbury they wend, the holy blissful martyr for to sake that him hath holpen when that they were sake. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. You know what they say, everyone's coming out of the woodwork.
All right, Steve Mollet. Only around this
It was the expedite with the tacos.
only around this neck of the woods. I like it though.
I did not say that.
That's for Canterbury.
Moley, Lay, the Lay, yeah. All right, so Eileen asked me to sing a happy song, and I can do that.
All right. So this song I wrote is called Greet the Spring, and I wrote it while I was thinking about my mother. So it's got to be a happy song, right? So I could use some help with, it goes in between the verses, we can do this. La da dee da dum, la da da dee da da dum, la da dee dum, la da 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 dee, la da 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 dee dum, la da da dee da da dum, la da dee dum, la da 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 dee. When no, I wrote two songs that are pretty similar. Greet the spring. Can't greet the spring without thinking of you. Can't see the moon shine down or touch the morning dew. You're next to me every day. Yes, you're in my heart to stay. I can't greet the spring without thinking of you. It's a long, long way from where I've been, and it's a long, long way where I'm going to. Long way from where I've been, long way where I'm going to. I can't greet the spring without thinking of you. La dee da da, la dee da da, la da 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 dee. La da 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 dee. La da da dee da da. I can't greet the spring without thinking of you. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new sun. And it's a brand new moon on everyone. New day, new sun, a new moon shining on everyone. I can't greet the spring without thinking of you. La dee da da, la da 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 dee, la da 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 dee, la da 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 dee da da. I can't greet the spring without thinking of you. Can't greet the spring without thinking of you. Can't see the moon shine down or touch the morning dew. You're next to me every day. Yes, you're in my heart to stay. I can't greet the spring or hear a robin sing, sing, sing without thinking of you. Oh, wow. Thank you very much. So I'll do an Elton John song. You can help me sing it. Seems like every month I change the songs I'm going to sing, but that's all right, I guess. From the day we arrive on this planet, step blinking into the sun, there's more to be seen than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Some say eat or be eaten, some say or be eaten. Some say live and let live. But all would agree as we join the stampede, we should never take more than we give. In the circle of life, it's the wheel of fortune. It's the leap of faith, the band of hope, till we find our way on the path unwinding in the circle of life. Some of us fall by the wayside, some of us soar to the stars, some of us sail through our troubles, some of us live with the scars. There's much, too much to take in here, more to find than can ever be found. But the sun going down in the sapphire sky leads great and tall on the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune, it's the leap of faith, it's the band of hope, till we find our way on the path unwinding in the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune, it's the leap of faith, the band of hope, till we find our way on the path unwinding in the circle of life, of life, of life.
April Fools, that was not our last performer. We have a final guest entry, April Fool. Daniel Klein is going to tell us a miserable joke. Not a non-miserable joke, a miserable joke. Is that right? Can I help you?
See if I may.
I sometimes don't read it.
Okay, this is going to be very short, and it's a musical trick I learned while working in my high school cafeteria about 70 years ago. But I can still do it. What I'd like to ask is, call out a selection of a song that I might know.
Singing in the Rain.
Okay. I learned this one in geometry class. You have something like a ruler, a wooden ruler?
That's the one thing I forgot to put in my bag. You believe?
Oh, that's right.
I do have a headlamp.
I just have a protractor.
You know what I do have? It's not a ruler, but it
No,
might
sir.
work. I happen to have.
Stick.
No, a tiny ladder.
Not too far. Okay, I think I'll do it this way then.
We'll pretend.
What would you like to hear this time?
Valley High.
Okay, so actually knew the woman who wrote that. Yeah.
Doris Day.
She's fine. That's right. Nothing like an encore. That's what I always say.
Did I think I topped myself?
What?
Did I top myself?
I won't tell you what I learned in high school geometry. Thank you. So this has been a really great April IWOW. Everybody brought a smile to my face, a feeling to my heart, and shone a light on something I needed to see or hear. So thank you all. It's been an honor to work with you today.